The first scream didn't come from fear. It came from humiliation. In the bright afternoon sunlight pouring through the giant glass windows of Bellamy's grill, every fork stopped moving at once when a wealthy businessman grabbed the young waitress by the wrist so hard that her tray crashed across the marble floor. The sound of shattering plates echoed through the restaurant like gunfire. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. People only stared while the trembling waitress tried to pull away, her face pale with shock and embarrassment. Then a chair scraped sharply across the floor. A broad-shouldered man in a faded army jacket rose from the corner booth beside a little girl coloring quietly with crayons. The veteran's tired eyes locked onto the rich man's hand, and in one cold second, the entire restaurant atmosphere changed. What nobody knew was that the waitress carried a secret identity powerful enough to freeze that arrogant millionaire where he stood. If you believe kindness and second chances still matter in this world, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to LifeLine Tales. Your support helps bring emotional stories like this to life every single day. Marcus Hale had learned long ago that most people stopped seeing men like him. After 2 combat deployments overseas, a shattered knee, and years of sleepless nights filled with memories he could never fully escape, the decorated veteran had returned home to discover that medals meant very little when rent was overdue and employers preferred younger men without scars. He now worked nights repairing delivery trucks while raising his 8-year-old daughter Nora alone after losing his wife to illness 3 winters earlier. Life had become a constant balancing act between exhaustion and survival. Yet despite carrying so much pain inside him, Marcus never allowed bitterness to poison the gentleness his daughter still depended on. Every Saturday afternoon, no matter how little money they had, he took Nora somewhere special for lunch because he wanted her childhood to contain at least a few warm memories untouched by hardship. That afternoon had already been difficult. Marcus had nearly skipped lunch altogether after receiving another overdue utility notice that morning. But Nora had smiled when she saw Bellamy's grill decorated with spring flowers outside, and he could not say no to the one person who still brought light into his life. They sat quietly near the back, sharing fries and lemonade while Nora drew pictures of birds on paper napkins. Marcus noticed the waitress immediately because she reminded him of people he had served beside during the war, calm under pressure, carrying sadness behind her eyes while still offering kindness to strangers. Her name tag read, Elena. She moved quickly between crowded tables while enduring rude customers with quiet dignity. Marcus saw exhaustion in the way her shoulders sagged whenever she thought nobody noticed. He understood that kind of tiredness. It was the exhaustion of someone carrying invisible weight every day. Then the rich man arrived. Victor Langston entered the restaurant surrounded by expensive cologne, loud laughter, and the confidence of a man who believed money gave him ownership over every room he entered. His designer watch alone probably cost more than Marcus earned in a year. The manager nearly tripped rushing to greet him. Employees stiffened nervously the moment they recognized him. Victor clearly enjoyed the attention. He barked complaints before even sitting down, insulted the food, mocked the staff, and spoke to everyone as though they existed beneath him. Elena remained professional through it all. But when she accidentally brought sparkling water instead of still water, Victor exploded. He stood suddenly, grabbed her wrist, and began humiliating her loudly in front of the entire restaurant. His face twisted with cruelty while Elena struggled not to cry. The room stayed silent because wealthy men like Victor often frightened ordinary people into submission. But Marcus had spent years standing in places where fear meant death. He was no longer impressed by loud men pretending to be powerful. He rose slowly from his booth and stepped between Victor and Elena. The little girl at the table behind him watched silently, clutching her crayons. Marcus spoke calmly, but his voice carried the dangerous steadiness of someone who had seen real violence before. He told Victor to let her go immediately. Victor sneered at the worn army jacket and laughed at Marcus's limp. He called him a broken soldier who should mind his own business. Yet Marcus never flinched. He simply stared at the man's hand gripping the waitress harder and repeated himself. Something in Marcus's eyes finally caused Victor's smile to fade slightly. It was the look of a man who had already survived worse things than intimidation. Elena whispered for Marcus not to get involved. She looked terrified, not for herself, but for him. Then everything changed. An older man near the entrance suddenly stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. His eyes widened in disbelief as he stared directly at Elena. The entire restaurant turned toward him when he spoke her full name in shock. Not Elena. Elena Carrington. Victor's grip loosened instantly. The color drained from his face. Because everyone in the city knew the Carrington name. Elena was the hidden daughter of Arthur Carrington, the billionaire founder of Carrington International Holdings, the same company currently negotiating a massive financial merger with Victor Langston's collapsing corporation. Rumors had circulated for years about Arthur's estranged daughter who disappeared from the public eye after refusing to live within her father's wealthy empire. Nobody had known where she went. Victor stumbled backward as realization hit him like ice water. The waitress he had publicly humiliated was not powerless at all. She was connected to one of the most influential families in the country. But Elena's reaction stunned everyone even more. She did not appear proud. She looked heartbroken. Tears filled her eyes as years of hidden pain surfaced silently across her face. She admitted softly that she had walked away from her father's fortune because she wanted a real life, not one controlled by money and public image. She had worked ordinary jobs for years to prove to herself that kindness mattered more than status. Yet even after leaving wealth behind, people still judged others based on power, fear, and money. Marcus listened quietly while Victor suddenly transformed into a desperate apologetic coward. Moments earlier, he had treated Elena like garbage because he believed she was powerless. Now he begged forgiveness because he finally understood who she was. And that disgusted Marcus more than anything else. The veteran calmly told Victor that a person's worth should never depend on their last name or bank account. He explained that the waitress deserved respect long before anyone knew her identity. Silence spread through the restaurant as those words settled deeply into everyone listening. For the first time all afternoon, Elena truly looked at Marcus. Not at his old clothes or his limp, but at the man himself. She noticed the exhaustion in his eyes, the tenderness with which he checked on his daughter, and the quiet courage that had pushed him to stand up when nobody else would. Before leaving, Elena knelt beside Nora and handed her a small sketchbook from behind the counter because she had noticed the little girl drawing birds earlier. Nora hugged it against her chest like treasure. Marcus thanked Elena quietly, expecting that to be the end of it. But 3 days later, Marcus received a phone call that changed everything. Elena had tracked him down through the restaurant manager. She explained that after hearing about his military background and financial struggles, she had spoken privately with her father. Arthur Carrington wanted to personally meet the veteran who defended his daughter without expecting anything in return. Weeks later, Marcus was offered a leadership position overseeing security operations for one of Carrington International's veteran employment programs. The salary was enough to finally stabilize his life. More importantly, it restored the dignity Marcus had slowly lost after returning home from war. For the first time in years, Nora had her own bedroom. The overdue notices stopped arriving. Marcus even began sleeping through entire nights again. Yet the greatest change came from something far simpler. He no longer felt invisible. Before this story ends, comment where you're watching from and share one act of kindness you will never forget in your life. Months later, Marcus and Nora returned to Bellamy's grill one sunny afternoon. Elena was still working there by choice, smiling more easily now. As sunlight filled the restaurant once again, Marcus realized something powerful. Sometimes heroes are not the richest people in the room. Sometimes they are the broken souls who still choose kindness after life gives them every reason not to. And if this story touched your heart even a little, please like, comment, and share this video with someone who still believes good people exist in the world. Sometimes one moment of courage can change an entire life forever.